All right. Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, still waiting on our 4 remote learners to come back, so they will be here at some stage in the future. Welcome. Good to see you. Can I ask how I pronounce your name? Young Sun? Young Sun. Young Sun? Yeah, that's not going to be complicated at all. I'll get used to it. All right, okay. So today, as we see, we're going to be having a wee experiment. We're going to be testing a particular theory. The plan is that you're going to be using the terminologies, the methodologies that we have discussed. Okay, but just ever so quickly before we do that, okay, I've sent you an email inviting you to the classroom. So if you can make sure that at some point that you have connected to the classroom, that would be fantastic. Maybe Joel can help if you get stuck with that. And when you're in the classroom, I have added, obviously, the link to this, which isn't up there, to the IB site. And the IB site goes right the way from the beginning all the way through. Okay, so it will show you where we're up to and what we're doing. And it will have the terminologies that we're using, and it will all be there, plus videos that you can look back through and see, etc. Okay, are you in the boarding or are you not in the boarding? You're in boarding? Okay, so there might be some other boarding people who can sort of help out with that as well. Fantastic. Okay. All right. So we will get ourselves underway. I'll just hit go on that. And go on that. Now I've got 4, but that might be me as well. Okay, so team who are distance learning, you might like to play along at home with this particular activity. All right, you might have some Coca-Cola at home, and you can test this particular theory out yourself. So here's what we're doing. All right, this is what we're testing. Okay. The idea is we're going to have some representative consumers. These are going to be the people who are going to be consuming the product, Coca-Cola marshmallows. Okay? There will be fixed quantities of said product that they will be consuming each time. Now, each time they're going to have a whiteboard themselves, and they are going to note down their level of satisfaction. We are going to need like a scribe who will be recording, right, what's happening, and we're going to need a couple other people to help out as well. We are going to do this. It's going to be different from how we would normally do this because we'll be social distancing you. Right, when you do it, you're going to have an individual cup yourself, okay, to which that cup, once it's yours, won't be touched by anybody else. Okay. You will also have an individual bowl. Again, once you get given the bowl, nobody else will touch it. Okay? And the same with any marshmallows that you get, you are not allowed to share. So if you are the consumer, those are your marshmallows. And you can, I don't know, take them with you for the rest of the day. I don't know. Yeah? Highly up to you with regards to that. So here's what we're looking at. All right, we're testing what's called a level of satisfaction, i.e. how satisfied you feel after you have consumed the product. How good they make you feel. Now, I'm not making it easy on you, okay? For example, the Coca-Cola is room temperature. Oh, yeah. It is not cold. Yeah, I haven't brought like a fridge to put things in, yeah? Also, those of you who haven't tried eating marshmallows and drinking Coca-Cola at the same time, yeah, it is an interesting combination, all right? with the flour and the sugar and all of those sorts of things in there. Okay. Now, for safety reasons, other safety reasons, you need to make sure you know where the bathroom is in case it is needed.
Can we just have garbage bags? Can we just look at the sink?
No, definitely not.
Oh my God.
No. I was thinking you might more need to go number 1.
Oh, okay. I can handle that, sir.
So yeah, so again, not in the sink. Yeah, we're not at home now. And whatever they do in the boarding house, that's between you and them. Yeah, I don't want to know. Yeah. So the idea is that we are testing this level of satisfaction, because what we want to know, what we want to know is, does your level of satisfaction decrease as you consume more? Because that's what we are going to assume. That's our hypothesis, is that as you consume more, the level of satisfaction, and in economics, the code word, where is it? Utility, satisfaction, okay? That level of satisfaction is actually going to decrease as you consume more. That's our hypothesis. That's what we are thinking. So we should test it to see if it works, because it's going to become quite important, as you're going to see. Now, one of the reasons we chose Coca-Cola, now I've done this exact experiment for nearly 20 years, okay? All right? Now, one of the main reasons... Hello! Good to see you. One of the main reasons... Yeah. Oh, there was a New Zealand joke that almost came out there. All right? One of the New Zealand... Reset button. One of the reasons that Coca-Cola is brilliant for this experiment, other than the fact that it's nice, right, is the fact that Coca-Cola markets itself more often than not as the bringer of happiness. Okay? That's its marketing plan. All right? So when you drink Coca-Cola, by their marketing, right, you should be happier. This is a company that spends over $5 billion on marketing. Just Coca-Cola, just the normal Coca-Cola, not all the other varieties and flavors and products. $5 billion per year. They come up with some of the most amazing and imaginative marketing that I've ever seen. That's brilliant. It's very clever. And, you know, we can talk about that one other day. In fact, I think I've got links to some of them as well. So these are some old ones and some new ones you might recognize. Who? You don't recognize Keanu Reeves?
It's Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Keanu Reeves, yeah. Quite clearly pre-John Wick days, yes. Right, that's 1986, 8, something like that. Right, that's one from, I think, the 1960s.
Is that one that used to have cocaine in it?
No, that was a long time ago. And it wasn't, strictly speaking, cocaine as such, it was the derivative thereof, yeah? I think it's a derivative of it. It's not the actual thing, yeah? That's a misunderstanding people have. It's illegal. Probably a good reason why. Right? When Coca-Cola as a company has been around for over 100 years. Yeah. When it first came out, it was like the traveling salesperson with a tonic, right, that he had created. No carbonation, just the syrup, right, which would have tasted a bit like rocket fuel. Okay. And it was designed to cure you of pretty much everything. Right? Quite literally, that's what they would be selling it to you as. Cures you of headaches, cures you of this, cures you of that. Drink it and you'll be amazing. And the reason why is because he'd been walking across Africa and the guys had been chewing on the coca leaves. And, well, yes, I can carry the bags now, all right? And so he had experimented with the leaves, crushing them up and putting them in liquids and doing all of that. And that's kind of where it came from, all right? That's the original idea, yeah? And his best mate started up the Pepsi company, yeah? Two and rival with each other, yeah? Same sort of idea. But essentially, yes, a whole lot of sugar, a whole lot of caramel flavor, and carbonation was one of the new inventions for it. But every single one of the initial investors in Coca-Cola are all multi-millionaires. And he just went next door to the house next door to him, and then to the house next door to them, and then just kept going down the street and getting them to invest in his company. Right, so here's what we need. We need people. We need representative consumers. We are going to need brand ambassadors. Self-explanatory, sure. And we're going to need scientists, okay, to figure it all out. So yes, it is an experiment, but yes, not everybody necessarily will be involved. There will be some who are somewhat somewhat crazily allergic to Coca-Cola or marshmallows. No? Yes? Don't know?
We'll find out.
If she explodes in flames, we'll know, right? So therefore, they will not be participating in the actual consumption. And it doesn't make sense to have too many consumers, so I'm anticipating at most 4. Okay, that's what I'm thinking, right? The brand ambassadors are going to be the ones producing, supplying the product, okay? That's going to be them. And then the scientists are going to be doing the figuring out what's going on, the recording of the data, and and then the actual analysis as we go through at the end. Okay. That, I hope, is about as clear as mud. I have included in the slides some wee video clips as well, which you can have a look at yourselves at some point, or we may look at them at the end. 1988. Right? Again, it's about Coca-Cola marketing itself as the bringer of happiness. Very not subtle. And the further back in time you go, the increasingly less subtle it gets. Okay, another interesting, history of marketing and the behavioral sciences. You've got to remember, at the end of the Second World War, when the Nazis were, being nasty, okay, their scientists were fleeing. And a number of them went to America. And one of their top psychologists, psychoanalysts, behavioralists, went and worked as a marketer. And he created, at the end of the Second World War, a lot of the marketing campaigns and a lot of the principles of marketing that you still see today. And they're all based on behavioral psychology, behavioral economics. Right? So, but back then, they were not subtle. Okay, they really, okay? So unsubtle that when we learned them at university, the lecturer had to say, bit of a disclaimer, when we talk about this stuff, it is a bit adult, okay? And when you see some of the early images, previous slide, okay, with the woman lounging back, right, you can kind of understand, yeah? I mean, this is a company that the bottle is shaped like the ideal woman. That's why they have that shape, the iconic shape of the Coca-Cola bottle, the hourglass shape, yeah? So in any case, so there's that one from the 1988s, in case you haven't seen. Anybody remember the 1988s?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You've got Mick Jagger singing I Can't Get No Satisfaction, because why not? But also because he went to the London School of Economics, he learned all of this stuff. So the fact that he's singing about satisfaction, I find quite amusing and interesting, yeah? And then there's this one. It's a relatively recent one. I say recent, it's been around a few years. Coca-Cola and happiness. And they felt that there was a huge need to push this idea of happiness. They felt people were not happy. So it was up to Coca-Cola to go around the world and make people happy. So they reinvented a lot of their products. Right? So they had vending machines that would give you free Coca-Cola if you gave it a hug. Right? They were called hug machines, yeah? They had Coca-Cola bottles that you could actually only open them if there were 2 bottles and you connected them and then did that, which meant that you had to physically talk to someone in order to do it. They gave away a whole lot of products. They did a cool dance one, where there were two basically warring groups of people. Okay, they didn't like each other. It was somewhere in Eastern Europe. Okay, and they put a Coke vending machine with a camera in it and a screen in each of these two villages. And then they got the people to talk to each other through the video cameras. And then a challenge would appear, and it said, do a dance. And so they had to do a dance or sing a song. And they, you know, it's about connecting and communicating. And if they did that, then they got free Coca-Cola. So quite an interesting way to market your product, yeah? To actually travel around the world trying to stop warfare. Okay? All right. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be thinking about writing it up at the end, and we're going to be looking at what did we investigate, what did we find out, what assumptions have we made, what critically do you think about the actual theory itself, and a bit of an extra for experts here, what connection might it have with the idea of demand? We are then going to go into demand and have a look at demand, yes we are, as a wee introduction to what we're going to do towards the end of next week into the following week. Okay? I know we haven't quite finished some of the topics that we were looking at the other day, but this I felt was important to do today. Plus a nice introduction for you. Yes. All right, representative consumers is what we need. Brand ambassadors is what we need. Now, I did think about arbitrarily saying X, Y, and Z people, but then I worried about people might be allergic, etc. So, again, you at home as well, you can be your own representative consumer, and you can keep track yourself. So, we need, as I said, 3 to 4 representative consumers. Who have we got? 1? Don't be shy. Otherwise, I will pick you. 2. Good to have a gender balance.
Yes.
3.
Yes.
3. 4. All right. Okay. Now, you need to be socially distanced from other people. Okay. So, Joel, perhaps if you move down to there, maybe. Yeah. All right. So, arrange yourself so that you are socially distant from other people. Now, I also am going to need 3 brand ambassadors, at least, possibly 4.
What do they do?
They're going to be the people pouring the Coca-Cola and topping up the marshmallows. 1, 2, 3, 4, done. Excellent, fantastic. And the rest of you are going to be the scientists working out what's happening. You can start your write-up, etc., as we go through. Okay. So, can I have brand ambassador number 1? Here we go. Big catch. There you go. Okay. Brand ambassador. 1 plate per person, please. Man. Brand ambassador number 3.
Oh God.
Right now. Okay, so as said, once the cups are given out, once the plates are given out, they don't get touched again. Right? The only person who touches them is the representative consumer. Right? So Joel will be 1 person with Coca-Cola. Who's another representative here? Right. Ambassador there. Now they're the only people who do the pouring of the Coke. Now when you do it, please do not touch their cups. Right? They have to be the person holding the cup. I know it's perhaps a little over the top, but okay. You don't want to get it too much? Sure. Right. We have 1 space for a consumer. Do we want another consumer? 1 more consumer.
1, 2, 3.
We got 3 consumers. Do we want 4? 1, 2, 3.
4.
Oh, okay, 3's fine. Right. Do we have another brand ambassador? Brand ambassador. Now, be careful with yours because my son found them and
Oh, they're white marshmallows? Okay.
yeah.
So they take them?
No. Now again, with the marshmallows, you are the only people who serve them. Once they're in their plate, you don't touch them. Now, the plan is, and I know it's going to be difficult. Hold on. Good. Okay. So the plan is that you're going to have 1 cup to about there, yes, of Coke. Right? Yeah. To about just before the discoloration. Just there's a little line around the cup. Yeah, so below that line. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, you are going to have 1 of those, that will be 1 unit plus 4 marshmallows. Okay? Alright? That's the key plan. Now, there is hand sanitizer if you wish to use the hand sanitizer before we get out of the way. Now, I also need someone on the board who's going to be transcribing. Yep, good
No,
too.
your handwriting sucks.
Yes, we just had it. I can do straight lines.
Alright, so
Your handwriting sucks.
You suffer a lot.
did I have another brand ambassador?
How many scientists do we need? How many scientists do we need?
The rest of you are all signed.
I see.
So it's me.
Good.
Mama, we know.
Right. So each consumer has a whiteboard and they need a pen.
Oh, there's some pens there.
Are there pens there? Okay. Again, there's hand sanitizer freely available. Now the plan is that you will note down on your whiteboard once you have consumed your level of satisfaction. Okay. And then you'll hold up your board and then it will get transcribed onto here. It'll make it easier.
So they just put like 3 different sections.
Whiteboard marker.
Oh, no.
So they use like 3 different names and like every time it just put down the number.
Might be easier doing it that way.
So like,
So names here.
so like first time you get like 10, 8, and 7. Yeah.
Okay.
But I can't tell the line.
All right.
Oh yeah, that's right. Second words.
All right. So please do make it socially distanced as best as you can.
Beautiful.
Your perfection.
Wow.
Yeah, so good. So good perfection.
Yeah, come on. Right. Okay. So you might want to do some lines. Distinguish. Do a little table. Yeah. Track here.
Is it like on a 1 to 10 scale or what?
All right. Okay.
Out of 10 or?
Scientist has asked, what scale should we have with regards to your level of satisfaction?
We
1
can
to
do
10.
smiley faces.
So then 10 would be really good, and 1 would be not very good. And 5 should be okay. So see here.
1 horrible. Like 1, I'm about to vomit. 10 is like I can keep going. 1 is I will throw up.
Okay? Maybe. Right. So the rest of you need to be paying attention, thinking about what they're doing. Okay, so do all of the consumers have 1 unit of Coke and 1 unit of marshmallows?
Are we tracking our units?
Yes, well, it will be done over
They show
here.
like a whiteboard now.
How many do we have to eat as much as we can?
Yeah, we will just
The more data points, the better.
I haven't eaten, I'm really hungry.
Okay,
Well, you see relief in body.
the consumption can begin. Where you go. You've got Coke and M&M. Sorry, M&M. Marshmallows.
So you have to eat all 4 marshmallows and the Coke to count as 1 unit.
Yes, you have to have the Coke and the marshmallows. That counts as 1 unit.
我这个一口已经够了。
So don't just drink the Coke and go, woohoo! Yeah, no. Okay, now once they have drunken their Coke, they should give you and eaten their marshmallows. They should write what level of satisfaction they are feeling from 1 to 10. Okay, At the end of that, it needs to be added to the board.
We're gonna find a mean. I'm gonna find a mean at the end.
If you really want to find a mean,
If I
if
standard
you
deviation,
find that a valid methodology, you can. Essentially not needed.
Can we also note down how many units they
Yeah. Technically, if
because
you
that-
column,
Yeah,
number of
yeah,
columns.
people-
Wait, so one more time with one unit, right? No,
Okay.
a cook and the.
Now,
The whole thing, right?
The whole unit.
we've got another scientist here who has a suggestion. I don't know that I want to say the suggestion.
Yeah, one house.
So Wenhao, if you want to turn and just explain your thought. There you go.
Should we measure the weight of subject?
No, I don't fight you.
Okay.
I mean, this was
What
like.
if you find the ratio yourself and you?
No.
Why are we measuring the
You
weight?
can still work out my weight from the ratio.
Why do we need the weight?
Because different people is different amounts of marshmallow. Right?
So I set you up.
Technically, you will need like the same weight.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, how are we going? We finished? Consumer one?
Okay, increase or?
Okay, here we go. Nisa is about to finish. She's writing down a score.
Oh, God.
Ten is good.
Oh, I'm not happy.
We did 666.
Got it. He says a 6.
Oh, geez, that was what I said not to do.
Dude, everyone just average right now. I'm hungry.
Okay, so just to reiterate, people who are delivering the Coca-Cola need to not touch the cups. Yeah? All right? Hopefully you understand why. Yeah?
Guys,
Trying to
if
do
you want me
this
be
within
standing
the
up,
middle of
please
a
stay
global
away from the
pandemic.
people without your mask on. Thank you. To be fair, I eat with them, so
Yeah, you can be seated if you want. All right? Okay. All right.
I like having people watching these.
Yeah. All right. It is a bit different. Usually you'd be all in a line, and we'd be able to see it all passing down the line, so to speak.
Wait, how long about 5 signal? Oh, satisfaction.
I didn't know where to start to school. Max, have you rated your session?
You just finished this first.
I would 7.
7.
All right, here we go. First scores coming up.
Like to.
You're gonna regret this.
Okay, so after 1 unit, we've got a score of 5, 6, and 7. Max is enjoying this much more. Whoa, steady on, dude. My word, please don't get a job as a bartender.
Hey, it's okay. It's not the salary.
All right, 5, 6, and 7. So next unit
6.
coming up. Here we go. We've got a 6. Fatima is enjoying it more as she consumes more. Maybe
I was
serious.
I'm actually slow, but I'm gonna keep going.
are we going to be able to?
Oh, no, 10 is there. 10 is good. 10 is good. 10 is good. Yeah, I know. Okay.
Yes, 10 is
10 is good.
i.e.
And one is
Hey.
A.
Was it good?
Oh,
A.
we're starting to feel it now.
10 is A, which means good. Don't know.
I'll keep going as long as they don't want. Keep going. I mean,
What is this competition?
in my head, I'll just keep going. Let's see.
Yeah, I have done this, as said, for a while. One of the more surprising ones I did was with some of the big boys in New Zealand. Some of them could fair consume Coca-Cola, that's for sure. One of the big rowing boys, who is, I don't know, he's about 6'4", 6'5", something like that, seemed to have, they just seemed to fill his legs with Coca-Cola. He just kept drinking the Coca-Cola, eating the marshmallows, he just kept going. It was quite interesting. Oh, Nisa's gone down considerably. What's happening? Let's talk us through.
So there's like we have the 3 different representative consumers. I don't think you can see. You can see, I think, yeah. It's like every time basically after they consume 1 unit of the product, and this is their satisfaction level. 10 is the best, and 1 is like, oh my god, I would like to die. Basically, yes.
All right.
Just a second.
What I do on my weekends.
Five.
All right. Oh, we're going down here too. Yes. Hey, we're only up to 2 units so far. I think Nisa's starting to look a bit green around the gills. Yeah. Fatima has admitted they've been four, Fatima.
Wait, just that one already?
No, it is her four.
For what?
This is Fatima's, no, this is her third
Yeah,
satisfaction,
this
but
is
I want to
her
read my fourth.
Max is just taking his time.
Yeah.
He's enjoying the moment. What other class do you
Who does
get?
it hair?
Choose so much time. This does make sense.
Spreadsheets?
Yeah, I know it's a bit, yeah, but this is what we do.
Especially it's not like you.
I'm really bad with the drinks.
Satisfaction what? Satisfaction on,
Especially on why, that's why.
satisfaction on
Sir,
what?
if I vomit, will school get mad at me?
No.
I don't know
You might
about
get
school,
mad.
but I think Arena might.
I won't blame you. I'll say I have to listening for boarding.
So long as you aim towards Arena,
Okay.
we're all
So
good.
if I accidentally vomit here somewhere, I can hold it, but I'll try my
No, what if you?
I put in my room.
We're gonna say that you won't. Let's go for that. How we going, Lisa? Where are you up to? Taking your time. All right, let's fair enough. Now, does anybody know the economist who came up with this particular idea?
Utility theory.
Yeah,
Andrew's guy.
Andrew's
guy.
Andrew Sky. What was his name?
William Stanley Jevons.
William Stanley Jevons came up with a lot of it. Yes, and another gentleman added to it as well. Anybody know his name?
Karl Marx.
No. Guy called. No.
My guy.
Well before that. Guy called Jeremy. See if you can find Jeremy. Jeremy Bentham. Exactly. Well done.
I mean, judge.
Right. We'll just keeping an eye on you there, just making sure you're all right.
I
Yeah.
don't want to sit in front of that.
No. So the mistake, those of you who know Andrew in year 13, the mistake that he made when he participated in this particular experiment last year as a year 12 was that he'd drunken a lot before the experiment began.
Oh, no.
So then he just kept drinking from the Coca-Cola and the marshmallows, and yeah, he needed to rush out rather quickly at one point.
So if we have to go toilet, like as in like number one,
Yeah.
does that end the experiment?
Yes.
Okay. So any outgestion and excretion ends the experiment.
That's one way of putting it.
Excretion.
Oh, I'm really
Okay, right, how are we getting on here? Yes, Nisa, what number are you up to? Is this your second unit or third unit you're on now? Third unit? Max, you're still on your third?
I guess
Yeah, there's only one right.
finishing the second.
Finishing your second? Yeah. Right.
Okay.
He's getting there. He seems to be pacing himself. He's still got marshmallows to eat, which I would suggest is a tactical error. Or is that the next one? Five?
Huh?
Fatima's gone up again in her level of satisfaction.
was full and now I'm feeling
Went
better.
up? Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, this is why social sciences are not
And Andrew is drawing a wee graph of the results as well. Helpful. Yeah, Max isn't looking too good, I've got to say. Yeah. All right.
And plus minus 5. This is you're on your third, right?
Yeah, if I slow down, it won't go down.
I think if you look carefully, I think you can actually see Nisa's eyes floating. You know. Now, if you were being particularly mean, You could do things like turning on taps. You could do things like discussing the rain. All right.
I don't need to
And
be
yes,
here.
in New Zealand, we did used to do things like that because it was funny.
I don't need to be. And so other than but not me.
Right, so Lisa and Max slowing down considerably.
What do I feel?
I'm not entirely sure that they're going to survive this particular experiment.
It's bad because this is like the first class.
Fatima seems to be going strong.
Max, how weird. Like, you're kind of fooled by your mouth.
For those of you who think it's an easy thing to do, yeah, the combination of marshmallow and Coca-Cola is quite an unusual one with the floury texture of the marshmallows. And I did pick the cheap and nasty marshmallows as well.
Max, didn't you do your third unit?
No, he's doing it.
Wait, no, I have to go
All
pee.
right.
Hold it! Hold it! You gotta hold it! Hold on, one more before.
All right, and
No, I need to go back.
yeah. Okay. And I think Nisa is our first casualty. So Nisa has done a 1.
Yeah, I'm finished.
1 and 2.
Do you want to finish?
So that's 1.
Oh,
Okay, that's 1.
Yeah, go.
All right, so Nisa is out. So we are down to a now standing Max,
Yeah.
right, which again is not the best sign. All right, he's trying to make more room for the Coca-Cola, I think.
So I can.
Okay, all right.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that's also the
Starting to feel the mission.
I covered it. I think it was.
You don't want to.
Really not board cleaner, but all right.
Is there one cleaner?
There is a little bottle next to the board, but it's not a lot.
How can you not be?
I can eat, but like,
How are we getting on? So Fatima and Max,
Max,
Yeah, I did it.
still waiting for your third result.
is
The rate at which you are slowing down
I'm
suggests
not
something to
ready
me.
for her.
Oh,
2.
Fatima's gone down to 2.
I'll take a break for a second.
No way.
All right, there's an issue with carbonation in such drinks. You can probably tell. All right, now we're up to Max, who's still consuming his
How
third.
much do I have to do?
As much as you want, honey.
You can stop anytime.
I'm just doing it for the sake of science.
You are starting to look a bit green now. All right.
Sir, don't worry, I can handle this.
Hey, Andrew, you want new color pens? Huh? New colored pens?
This one, yeah.
No.
This one.
I'm never drinking Coke in my house again.
See, that's a good way to get
That's
rid of
exactly what
Coke.
Andrew said last year. And Gabrielle, by the way.
To be honest, the Coke is okay, just a marshmallow. It's disgusting.
Right. So I don't know how your experiments are getting on. Maybe you are finding the same result. All right.
Thank you.
Why marshmallow? All the things.
Okay, so how are we getting on? Max, have you got a number yet?
Can I have 2.5?
2.5 for Max.
Yeah, that's true.
3.
All right, Max has, I think, consumed his third unit.
What's going on?
Now, Fatima, you are concerning me at the moment. I'm a little worried.
She's really quiet.
All right, you've gone, yes. There is normally more noise from your corner than there is currently.
No, she's just chewing. She can't talk.
Ah.
She's
Okay. Also, the bonus for me is with all the sugar that you are consuming, to be honest, then I get to unleash you at break time and you get to go to your next class.
in biology.
Honestly, I just get it out. I'm gonna eat so
I like
get it out.
to eat
It's
this
gonna
sheet.
Oh,
This is not saying anything.
but it's not here.
Is it?
Yeah, we're doing some what we gave there.
All right. Okay. And Max, what is this? Your fourth one?
No, it's still on.
Or you're still on 3? Okay. To be honest, Max, I think you might be out. I don't know that you're going to make any more.
Did you do one more?
You say also.
You do one more? All right. Okay.
Actually, you do one more.
Brand ambassadors.
Your last one.
Yeah,
Max is going to try one more.
yeah, I go down to one. Okay.
I might as well finish this one more. I don't want to waste too fast.
There we go. Yep. Okay. That'll do.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
All right. How are we getting on? Okay. So here on the board. Okay.
That's it.
Right. Fatima is gone.
Did you finish or what number?
That was the last one. She's done. Done now. All right. Okay, Max. Right, so now we just have Max left, struggling considerably. Who's taking his time apparently. Yeah. All right, okay, so ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do, thank you very much, is we're going to write you back to your regularly scheduled areas. We have got some cups, some marshmallows, and some plates left over. So maybe if you are thinking to yourself, yeah, I'd like a Coca-Cola or a marshmallow, you might like to get some of the brand ambassadors to assist you with that. None of it can be left. It all needs to go.
Didn't I warn you this morning?
Right.
It sounds okay.
Good on you, Nisa.
Yeah, I don't like this one.
Right. There are cups here that you can use if you wish to have some Coca-Cola.
I know what I continue.
Right. Again, make sure that it's your cup that you are using, your plate, don't use any others.
Keep going.
Can I stop?
Yes, you can. Absolutely. All right. Now, okay. Okay, so we're going to need Andrew to explain our results for us.
We have this crazy maniac here who did 5. Then we have the other 2 who did 3 each. The 3 units. Each unit is like basically 1 cup, and like 4 marshmallows. And we have the level of satisfaction from medium, which is 5, to an increase of 6 in the second one. Then the 4, then the 5, and suddenly drop down to 2. The second observer, or like the consumer actually, her first satisfaction was 6, then it dropped to 2, and then to 1, and then she went to the bathroom. And then we have the first one was 5, and then it dropped to, first one was 7, and then it dropped to 5, and then to 3, and then he stopped. Yes.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for the analysis. All right.
Can I go?
Yes, please go. If you need the bathroom, feel free. Marina, can you sort her out, please?
Oh, she wants them.
All right. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you have just participated in an exciting experiment, and I'm hoping that you learned something from it. You see on the board the results. Is there anything that stands out from those results so far? Yeah. Okay. So remember, our idea, our hypothesis was that as you consumed more of a product, your satisfaction level of consumption of that product should decline. You should not enjoy the second unit as much as you enjoyed the first, and you should not enjoy the third as much as the second, and so on. All right. Is there an end point? If you were to continue to consume, what do you see? Ones? So what are we talking about there? What's happening?
study because like the lowest.
The lowest, do you know what the opposite of satisfaction is? Dissatisfaction. So is it possible that they can get to dissatisfaction? Yeah. What do you call it if you are dissatisfied? Is there another word that you could possibly use? You're dissatisfied, yes, but it's a little bit more than that in a way, because it's a consumption decision.
Anti-utility.
Right.
Anti-utility.
All right, okay, that's an idea. Yeah. All right, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. So have we seen what we wanted to see with the results? Do we need to check on Fatima?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So we have seen the results here. They do appear to roughly, more or less, follow, particularly with Max and Nisa. All right. Fatima had a bit of an up and down situation with her levels of satisfaction. Is that real? What is this real? Is this a real experiment? Yeah. Could it have been more scientific?
Yes.
What could we have done to have made it even more scientific?
Time between each unit,
Yeah.
weight, mass of glisten, just like how it,
Yeah. Okay.
Can you mention the amount of
Be very specific with the measurements.
yeah, how long
repeat the experiment?
Repeat the experiment. Good boy. Yeah, well done. Because maybe the next group of consumers could do something different. Yeah. So it would have to be repeated. It is possible that we could have got it all wrong. That we could. Can we refute this? Is it possible to prove it wrong? If everybody all of a sudden decided that they, okay. Right, we did send in the cavalry to help.
I was just waiting for people to leave because we want to like talk here.
Okay. All right. Now, if I bring this up. We will have a wee look a little bit further into it. All right. Okay. So that's what we had. We had our representative consumers, we had our brand ambassadors, and the rest of us were all scientists. What we need to be able to write up is what did we find out? Okay? So in the classroom, some point, I can't remember when, you're going to be sent a wee thing which is going to ask you to write this up. Okay? And it's going to ask you to use the language, the methodology language that we've been discussing. Okay? Theory, hypothesis, etc. Right? Did we find out what we wanted to find out? What assumptions did we make? That's quite a big one. Okay, so what did we assume about our consumers? Yes, and as we saw, quite clearly they weren't. Yeah? Any other assumptions we made?
that like the rating is on the same like even though it's a 1 to 10 satisfaction, like a 10 to 1 satisfaction scale, their max is 5, it may not be similar to Nisa's 5.
Good point. All right. Any other assumptions that we made? That's a very good point. That your understanding of the scale will quite vary depending on who you are and your own personal experience. What else? Big assumption that we might have made. Maybe. Yeah.
We assume that we only use Coke, like how, and we assume it would be the same for everything. Why did we use Coke? Why did we chocolate milk?
Ooh, chocolate milk. Ooh, that would have been bad.
Chocolate milk, I'll do
Yeah.
it.
No, that would have been really bad. I've got a 7-year-old son. I absolutely know what happens when you drink too much chocolate milk. Okay, very familiar with this particular situation.
But it's better than cold.
I agree.
Way about as much sugar. Now, the other assumption that I was trying to get to. That might show up. Let's try. Right. The other assumption is a relatively long word beginning with R. Relatively long word beginning with the letter R. What are we assuming?
An assumption that begins, so it's like a one word.
One word. And it is going to come back and bite us next week. What do we assume? And we do this as a default, right? This is psychologically, we always do this. To the extent where it becomes quite shocking to us when this particular assumption doesn't work. Right? Really shocking. Sometimes we can be quite horrified. And that's not just from watching Donald Trump speak. That's, generally speaking, horrifying. Yeah. All right. Word beginning with R. Do we know? An assumption that we use. And in economics, we use it all the time. Yes.
Second letter.
Relatively long word. It's not hugely long.
E.
Whoa. Hold on.
Radiation.
Hold on.
Radio waves.
Radicalization. Radical.
Do we know?
Then it's
Rationalize. Rational. Irrational.
Yes. Rational. We, as a default, as a person, you always assume the people you are dealing with are rational. You do. I know that sounds strange because most of us know Fatima, but we assume people are rational. We do. It's our default mechanism. And as said before, when you do come across somebody who is not rational, and trust me, I've come across a number, okay, then it is quite a shock. It is quite scary. Yeah? You don't know what to do because if they are behaving irrationally, you have no, behavioral schematic that you know what to do to combat that. So in this situation, the rational thing to do when you are consuming these products is what? No, for you, the consumer, what's the rational thing for you to do? To stop. Yeah. When do you stop? When you don't want to eat and drink anymore, just like you did. Yeah, that's a rational thing to do. What would be irrational?
Keep going.
To continue to consume. But we also know people for whom that is what they do. Yeah, in New Zealand, in the high schools, particularly on a Monday morning, that's what I would see. Okay, over the weekend they had been consuming a lot, well outside of the realms of anything that's remotely healthy for them, and then Monday morning we would have to deal with the fallout. Right? Sometimes quite serious fallout. We had kids who were in prison. We had, well, not prison, jail. They'd been arrested.
Did you have to sort that out?
Yes.
Really?
Why it's not your
Have
problem?
the parents do it?
No.
Why?
Because-
Because like if one of us got arrested, school wouldn't have to bail us out, our parents would.
Okay. Well, in New Zealand, the parents would be informed, but the school would go down and sort it out.
Oh, wow.
Why did the school?
Because
on the
sometimes-
weekend is your personal life.
Sometimes, yeah, but this is during the school day now that we're talking about. Sometimes the child didn't necessarily want the parent to know. We didn't know what the issue was in totality. We didn't know if the parents were involved themselves.
Oh.
And the case of the boy in jail, it was his parents and his uncles who were in jail with him.
Oh.
So yes, we had to bail him out of jail. Yes. The girl who was shoplifting, we had to bail her out. Yeah, we couldn't tell the parents because the whole dynamic at home was just explosive. And they were going through a really hideous divorce, and there was all sorts of stuff going on. So yeah, the school had to deal with it. Yeah. The shoplifting was the least of the problems, believe me in that regard. So yeah, people don't always behave rationally. They don't. You might think that they do. They might be ordinary, everyday, mild-mannered Macs, and all of a sudden, whoa, right? Irrational. Yeah. Okay. Which is why when you look at what's going on in other countries like America, right, you might start to question, how on earth does this happen? Where is this coming from? This does not appear rational, and it's not. Absolutely not. All right? So in this theory, we make the assumption, excuse me, we make the assumption, sorry, a bit of a dry throat. We make the assumption that everybody is behaving rationally. But the reality is, maybe they're not. Yeah? Yeah?
Your own schools, right?
Oh, those are cold. Yeah.
If no one's gonna do this,
Sorry, one more time.
if no one's
That's it. You want to have it. Right, nothing can be left over. Yeah? And if you finish the bottle, can you give it to me? And I will show you my second party trick.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Now, if you are rational, that's what should happen. And with any of the consumption decisions that you make, people who are rational finish consuming before the chances of you becoming unwell happen. Not possible to do it without it.
Or you're just wrong.
Well, quite useful when you're dealing with students in New Zealand. Yeah?
I can barely push a can.
It's about tensile strength, because the tensile strength in cans and bottles is all vertical, physicsy, people. So as soon as you break that tensile strength, the whole thing just crumbles. Yeah. Right. What if consumers aren't always rational? Then, as we said, if that's the case, then they're going to end up consuming more than they should. To the extent where some people will consume so much that it'll actually make them unwell. Some people will continue to consume products that actually will kill them.
Okay.
Yeah? Now, that should not be rational. But why is it? How is it that they continue to consume products that are actually killing them?
Because the satisfaction's too high.
The satisfaction's too high? Is there any other reason?
They get addicted.
They get addicted to it. Yeah.
And it's like, you're satisfied, you get dopamine, serotonin, and that in itself is like a drug. Because whenever you're happy, you always it's like the same chemical process.
All right. Somebody's taking biology next. All right. Yes. But there's a downside to dopamine. Right?
Lows and lower.
It does. It's the same idea. It's the satisfaction. It isn't the same level with each successive consumption choice that you make. So it gets slightly smaller. Right? The downside to that is people then want that same feeling, that same level of satisfaction. So they're more likely to increase their consumption, right? Because they want to go back to how it first felt. Yeah? Don't know if you ever remember your first taste of Coca-Cola. Hopefully it wasn't today. Yeah, that first hit of caffeine on your brain cells.
Red Bull.
Yeah, or Red Bull. Yeah, yeah. That's quite a remarkable situation that occurs. Yeah. All of a sudden you're able to think all sorts of things. Yeah. Then the next one, it's like, oh, what happened? All right. What about this? If you had to pay for each of the drinks that you had, would you have still consumed that many?
I like the satisfaction of being rich. Spending 20 million on drinks.
So how much would you have paid for your first drink? 5 ringgit. Max, how much will you have paid for the first one? 3 ringgit. Cheapskate. Apparently 3 ringgit. Lisa? 3 ringgit as well. Oh, all the penny pinchers in the room. Right. 5 ringgit, 3 ringgit, that's what you would have paid. Yeah. What about the next drink? 3 ringgit? The same? Same? What about the next drink? Would you have still paid the same?
No, I would want to go lower.
Yeah. Why would you want to pay less?
Because I'm consuming more, so I don't want to spend more money.
All right. Because you don't get as much satisfaction. Yeah. So what we're now seeing is that not only is this an idea about utility and satisfaction in your consumption decision, but it's also about your purchasing pattern. Right? Because you will buy, consume products up until the point where the cost of it equals the amount of extra satisfaction you get, unless you aren't behaving rationally.
Isn't that the whole president of like a happy hour at bar?
Yeah.
Lower.
Yes. Absolutely. So the only way, therefore, for me to encourage you to consume more would be to lower the price.
That's why they have happy hour? Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. I thought it was just
It's in the title. All right. So to convince you to consume more, we're going to have to lower the price. Now, there are some of you in the room who are starting to make a connection now because of IBSE in particular, I'm hoping. All right? Because there is a concept in economics called demand. Now, please don't panic. It's not particularly demanding. That was a joke. That's okay. You can laugh later. You can join Fatima at laughing really loudly early in the morning. Right. Demand is you, the consumer, demanding a product. Right? It's you, the consumer, saying, I would like to buy this product. Not, I want this product. I would like to buy it. I would like to pay for it. So therefore, it's got two aspects to it. It is the idea of willingness. I didn't spell right. And the idea of ability. I haven't spelled right either. Okay? So the willingness is just your desire for the product, your demand for, you want it. Yeah, the Coca-Cola. Yeah, on that. Your ability is something different. What's your ability? How much you pay, the actual money you have, the income level you have. So now that we know that you will buy more if the price is lower. You can actually figure this bit out. That's the ability. So we're able to say, what about this price? What about this price? What about this price? What about this price? What about this? And we can encourage you to consume even more. Right? Even though you're getting less and less satisfaction, you're still buying more of the product because it's cheaper. Everyone wants a bargain. Yeah. So do you think we proved the hypothesis enough that we could create not one law, but two? Can we use what we learned to create laws? If we prove a hypothesis, there's a chance it could then become a law. All right, well, let's have a look very quickly because we're going to do the time. Okay, now don't get scared. Ready? Here we go. Ta-da! Well, that's kind of what we saw. Right? If we look at the graph that Andrew drew, it's not too far off. So we have a look. All right, this is what we should be able to find. This is the law, a law in this case.
Yes, sir. I think I moved it. I'm gonna do this every day.
Right. There is a law called the law of diminishing marginal utility. Graphically, it's going to look like that. Where those additional levels of satisfaction, by the way, in economics, just because it's cute, we call them utils. A unit of satisfaction or a unit of utility called a util. U-T-L-Y. Util. Oh, no, U-T-L-I-E. Apologies, I think. It's been a while, yeah? So each consumption decision decreases the level of satisfaction that you get for that unit. Then you get to a point here where you're not getting any satisfaction at all. And if you were to increase your consumption even further, then it would be negative satisfaction, dissatisfaction, or possibly physical pain, discomfort, unwellness, along those lines, yeah? And this is your marginal utility. And again, those of you who are IBSE-based, that might look familiar. Okay? And it should look familiar. Because that is what is inside your demand curve that you learned in medicine. That's the inside part of it. Okay? You do an autopsy on demand, ta-da, that's what comes out. Okay? Now, we can do this more scientifically. All right? And if we were to do it a bit more scientifically, we could come out with a graph that looked like that, where we matched the total amount of satisfaction. So we added up the satisfaction that we gained each time, accumulated it, and then we compared that to the marginal level of satisfaction that we were earning. We would find that where marginal utility equaled 0 was the peak of our total level of satisfaction. Or if you like, the turning point. Yeah, in that idea. So total satisfaction would increase and increase and increase up to a point and then decrease. The turning point would be where marginal utility equals 0. Okay? And again, you can do maths to figure all of that out. Okay? Don't panic yet. So that is a law that we can create just from this understanding. And there's another one that we're going to look at. Don't have to look at it today, but we're going to just quickly. And it's one that we've kind of hinted at before, and it is important. It is the law of demand. This law says that all else being equal, when the price of a commodity falls, good, commodity, old-fashioned word for good, when it falls, the quantity demanded rises. You consume more as the price decreases, which is what we found. It will also say vice versa. So if the price goes up, we're going to consume less. Why will we consume less? Because we're getting less satisfaction. Why will we consume more when the price comes down? Because it becomes more affordable to us. So we make that decision. There is a law, there is a rule attached to that. Now, the guy who came up with this whole idea about utility, right, and William Stanley Jevons took it a whole step further, but the guy who came up with a lot of this is this chap here. You might not think so in a minute. Right? His name is Jeremy Bentham. He came up with a study about happiness. He suggested that this is what we as humans are all after. And that the only way to work out whether an action is moral or right or wrong is about how it impacts on society's level of happiness. Creates more happiness, it's the right thing to do. Creates less happiness or pain, right? It's the wrong thing to do. Yeah? The technical term that they came up with for it, apologies, hedonistic calculus. We are using the maths to figure out the levels of pleasure and pain that you are receiving from your consumption decisions and your decisions in general. Okay? He's an interesting chap. Okay? He ended up being recognized and becoming the chair at one of the universities. Can't remember which one now, I've forgotten in a while. And when he died, he's well dead. Okay? When he died, he wrote something in his will. And what he wrote in his will was that he wanted to attend all of the board meetings of the university. So he does.
Oh, no.
That's him.
His dead body?
Yes.
That's his taxidermy?
Yes.
That's his taxidermy dead body?
Yes.
What is taxidermy?
In a like a case, sealed quite clearly. Case.
What is it wrong?
This is taxidermy. It's like, you know when hunters clean out the inside of the animal and they put preservatives on like they like clothes and stuff?
Right. So he's at the meetings. Right. So right now you're thinking, yeah, there's something not quite right there. Yes, you're right. Now, to make a creepy story even creepier, during one particular meeting of the university, they wheeled out Mr. Bentham, okay, put in his place, and they had the meeting, and they heard a noise.
No.
Oh dear. And it was quite a loud bump thump noise. And what had happened was
He fell?
his head fell off.
No. Oh no.
So the head fell off and smashed. Okay? So they couldn't rebuild it. So the head that you see there isn't his actual head. It's a wax replica of his head.
No, that's even worse.
So it is at this particular university in the States. I can't remember which one. You can probably easily find that out, I'm sure. And yes, you can go and see it, should you wish to. All right. He's an interesting chap. Right. Now, in the classroom, yes, in the classroom, there is a posting for you to write up the experiment from today with some instructions additional instructions for you to think about. If you can help figure out the classroom, the website, etc. There is not a lot of pink stuff. This is actually a cleaner as well that can be used on the desk, not on your hands. These are the tissues for the desk, for these ones, for these ones. You can nominate someone to come and do the cleaning of the desks. You can take yourselves away and head on out to break. Have a fantastic day. Thank you, team.
Especially if you're
This is severe hit. They put it back in the street.
Yeah.
it's a UCL.
UCL.
Yeah.
Yeah.